Yeah, this one goes out to the dreamer, always out there aiming high. Don't you let them clip your wings or say that you can't fly. This one goes out to the loser, losing time and time again, keeps on believing that someday they're gonna win. When nobody knows your name, nobody knows your face, everybody counts you out long before you start that race. You can let them place their bets, let them laugh and drink their wine, let them eat their words when you're first to the finish line.
Welcome, everybody. We are in the presence of greatness today. Even more greatness than when I usually do this podcast myself. We have our special guest today on the Coach Brew podcast, where we turn potential into performance. I had to add that disclaimer. We have King Shelby of Turcotte, which is his royalty name. Shelby Turcotte is a longtime friend, colleague, confidant, business associate, and he is my personal trainer. So this fine specimen that you see right here before you on the camera, not me, him. If you're watching this on YouTube, aka BrewTube, is Shelby. And in addition to being my trainer and an all-around great guy, he's also a high-performance coach, business owner, entrepreneur, dad, author, husband, not mine, his wife Heather. He's husband to Heather. Two wonderful little kids who are like little mini-me's of his, who I think do burpees and push-ups and chin-ups every day. And if you go to his Facebook page or his YouTube channel, you will see his children kind of like producing a lot of his content and telling them what to say and what to do. So yeah, he lives in a house full of women like I do and gets bossed around a lot, which is why we're kindred spirits, right, Shel?
Very, very true. Very true. Absolutely.
That might be the most accurate introduction you will ever get anywhere.
That pretty much covered everything. I'm ready to close up shop and move out. Good interview.
All right. Thanks, everybody. For more information, go to shelbytrain.com, and we'll see you next episode.
It's a wrap.
I'm kidding. But really, you should go to shelbytrain.com at your leisure. I wouldn't turn this off to go there now, but maybe later.
Not yet.
The reason I wanted to have Shelby on, besides the fact that he's freaking awesome, is we are living in a complicated time. And I don't just mean coronavirus. You know, at the recording of this, it is May, what is it, the 11th? 12th. We're on, every day's, thank God it's Friday. Oh, wait, it's Tuesday. It's just been a blur on like day 60 of shelter in place, whatever that means, because most people aren't doing that anyway. But it's a complicated time. And one of the things Shelby does better than anyone is taking complex things and simplifying them. I don't mean dumbing them down. It's quite the contrary. I saw a social media post that I wanted to tag you in, but I didn't want it to turn into like a little pissing contest with the person who posted it. But it said, simple problems call for simple solutions. Complex problems call for complicated solutions. And I just sat there reading that, and I'm like, did this guy really just tweet that? Because he's a pretty sharp guy, and I don't agree with that. Now, I'm not going to get into a fight on Twitter or like drag you into one, but I think, we'll both agree that a lot of the complicated things we overcomplicate, and the solution is actually quite simple. The example I love to give with weight loss is burn more calories than you consume. Boom, weight loss. Like, you don't need the Atkins diet, keto, this, all kinds of supplements. You don't have to do CrossFit because if you don't post on Instagram that you did CrossFit, did you really CrossFit? Right? Like, we complicate everything, and like, we're in quarantine. The economy's in the tank. Things are complicated enough. We don't know whether to wear a mask or don't wear a mask, or like, what can we touch? What can't we? Now there are murder hornets. With my luck, they'll be attracted to hand sanitizer. Like, So we want to simplify things for everyone today, and that's why Shelby's coming on here. He's got his first book. This is the one. I don't know if you knew this, Shelby. Your
I don't know
first
if I
book
did either.
is today is the 1-year anniversary of the day it hit number 2 on the Amazon bestseller list.
Yeah, I did not even know that.
Yeah, buddy. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tell us about the first book, and then we'll get into Simplementation, or as they say in Louisiana, Simplementation.
So, first book, I mean, the Shelby Train Code. Yeah, you can grab it. Plug. Go to the shelbytrain.com. Snag a copy. It really was, I think a culmination of a lot of things I had found myself repeating, day after day, week after week, year after year, of, again, a way to kind of simplify things for people in terms of what they needed to focus on. So it's 101, really 102, some humorous strategies for being able to, move on your fitness, your health, your performance and whatnot, and move yourself in that direction in terms of doing it. And so we tried, again, we cover everything. It's weight loss, it's fitness. There you go. It's performance. There's some life skills in there. It's got a little bit of everything. And, it has, I like to think if somebody took it, there you go. Look at that testimonial. If somebody took it and pulled it out and it was the only thing they used to start and work through their training, it would literally, I think you could do almost everything you wanted with it. And so my goal is to find easy ways, something somebody could pick up, read, get through, and then go from there.
I have a stack of these because I give them to my coaching clients, and I want to find for everyone one of the funny ones. I want to find a funny one, Shelby. Where should I start looking? I'm flipping through here.
I would honestly have to go up on my bookshelf and look to see what I could find. I do not remember. I do not remember the.
Oh, pro tip. This is rule number 68. Pizza can be a great post-workout treat. Since you'll be at the gym so much, it's important to find a way to still enjoy a nice warm meal. Pro tip. Turn on the heated seat in your car to keep the pizza hot while you drive home from picking it up.
True story.
That's the kind of wisdom you get in this book.
And people think I'm against pizza. Unbelievable.
Rule 64, Shelby. Are you against ice cream?
I am not against ice cream.
Okay.
I am not.
So, rule 64, chasing the ice cream truck does not count as going for a jog around the neighborhood.
It's true.
Yeah.
Even if it's a big neighborhood.
Or a rough hood and you have to run fast. But seriously, there's everything from discussion about heart rate monitors, VO2 max, just economy of motion, elevation training, fatigue, diet, nutrition, home workouts, push-ups, compound movements, isolation movements, all sorts of things in here. And it's really what I love about it is they're bite-sized pieces. They're it's the kind of book you can pick up and just read a couple pages a day, or like today, I'm going to focus on rule number 1 today and I'm going to live it. And then tomorrow I'm going to do rule number 2 and just work your way through it that way to a healthy lifestyle. And that helps make it a habit. And I think that's the key to success with anything. One thing above all else I've learned from you is, the power of habit in the gym, the power of habit in outside of the gym. Abs are made in the kitchen, and the power of habit of eating healthy. So I'd like to talk a little bit about habit and habit stacking, as you like to call it. So for people who are having trouble sticking to something, like let's say just getting exercise or moving every day, what's a good way they can build that lifestyle into a habit?
Yeah, so I am huge on habits. and I think, like you said, the thing for me that I started to realize was, and you alluded to it at the start of the conversation, information is everywhere. It is in abundance. So people, knowledge is actually not what people struggle with. It's the ability to, actually act on what they have. So what we try to do is we try to work backwards and kind of reverse engineer and figure out how we can get people to start. And one of the things I always tell people is you need to find a way that you can't say no. So we take whatever the task may be, or the goal is, we break it down into the tasks and the components. So let's just say, we're talking weight loss. You could make a list of probably 150 different things that it's comprised of, from working out to putting your workout clothes on, to eating better, to sleeping better, to reducing stress. And then underneath all of those umbrellas, you have all these other components that kind of come into play. So what we really try to do is we try to focus on one thing at a time, and we try to figure out how we can start people doing it. And so, you talk about workout. So if somebody wants to get a workout in, first thing we do is we try to figure out how can we get the habit of them actually moving. We don't really worry about how long. We don't worry about how productive it is, whether they're doing interval training or they're lifting weights or they're doing this or that. We just want them to do something. And we try to attach it. You mentioned like habit stacking. What we try to do is we try to find an anchor point within their day, like some point in their day that's pretty structured. The two places that we find most common or easiest to do initially, and we really consider there's 5 of them, but 2 of them, the start and the end of the day. And then from there, we work off of that, and we start to try to attach one habit to another. So for instance, if the first thing you do is, alarm goes off, you hit your alarm, you get out of bed, and you jump in the shower. And then after you get out of the shower, you put your clothes on. We want to make sure that the clothes you put on are your exercise clothes. So before you ever worry about getting dressed, you are, ready for your workout. So we take out that barrier of saying, later I have to change. I have to get out of this. I have to, whatever, tie has to come off, dress shirt has to come off. I got to undo it. We try to figure out how we can get past that point. And so we just try to find places in people's days, especially where there are definitive points. It could be anything from a lunch, waking up, starting work or school, a lunch, end of your day, whether it's again school or work. And then we start to look on the back end, like before you go to bed, dinner, things like that. And we look at the commonalities, and we try to figure out where those roadblocks are. And then we just take one simple thing and add it to another. And we try to find a way that people cannot say no.
All right, I'm gonna be what would they say in the court system? A hostile witness.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna be a hostile witness. I don't have time. I'm really busy. See how I just teed that up for you?
Yeah. Wow, that was big.
No, I'm really busy. Nobody
has time. Right? You're gonna fill it with something. And that obviously is one of the things we hear the most from people, is they don't have time. And so what we try to do is we try to figure out where we can trade time for something they would do for something else. And again, what happens is people get into the habits that they don't even realize that they're doing, that ultimately end up kind of taking time away from one thing to another, almost trading time.
Yep.
And so, there is a point, where you have to realize there's not going to be extra time. Everybody's got the same 24 hours in the day. And we try to find what the minimum amount we can get in the right place. I call it, you alluded to it earlier, but with me off the call, but I have what I call Shelby's 2-minute rule, which is literally, I call it STMR. And
that'd be rule number 57, folks.
There you go, 57. And
for those of you keeping score at home.
And so we try to find a place where we can put something that is 2 minutes, and it could be anything. We're talking fitness, but we talk a lot with when I've spoken at lunch and learns, at businesses, talks. oftentimes I find business owners come up and after the fact, they say, wow, that you were talking fitness, but the reality is that applies to life, that applies to work, that applies to, and yeah, it absolutely does. And so,
How does it apply to life
so
outside of fitness?
yeah, so
I mean,
what we started,
know. I just want to hear your thoughts.
yeah. So, it's what we've started to realize. And again, some of this is, I always say, to talk Simplementation, to kind of precurse it, we always talk art and science, right? Science says, research says, X, Y, or Z. And then art is the kind of gray area in between, where just because research says this, the ability for it to play out in the real world is rarely set up like a research study. So what we try to do is try to bridge the two. So when you take a look at something like a 2-minute rule, one, research has shown over and over that, small tasks that take minimal amount of time, something as simple as picking up a piece of paper on the floor that you literally just don't want to do because, you're like, it'll be fine right there. And it takes, 3 seconds to pick it up and put it in the recycling bin, but you just keep walking by it 10 times over the course of the day. Things like that we start to try to get people to realize, those small tasks are habit driven, so that it becomes and again, you got to pick and choose your battles, but it becomes if I can do something for 2 minutes, 2 minutes rarely has any relevance on the end of my day. The ability for me to move for 2 minutes when I get home from work, because a lot of times people are like, I don't have time. I come home from work, I'm tired. I need to make dinner. I need to do this. If your dinner is 2 minutes later because you move and you come home and you do push-ups and body weight squats for 2 minutes, nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to know that dinner was 2 minutes later than it was supposed to be because you did your squats.
What's more valuable use of your time? Posting a picture of your dinner on Instagram or doing 2 minutes of push-ups and body weight squats, right?
Right. And so it's no different than if you got stuck at a stoplight for 2 minutes, or you got talking to a colleague on your way out of work for 2 minutes, or you had to stop and get gas even though you didn't want to, which usually takes more than 2 minutes. Those are tasks that you do and that you can't put off, so you don't. Things like making a phone call because I have to schedule this appointment. Those are things that are easily blown off. And again, we try to find those little buckets, those anchor points within the day that people can attach them, and we make them really, really, really small.
So give us an example of an anchor point.
So again, I mentioned, I think my favorite 5 or 6-ish, when people first wake up, that is probably the easiest one for people to start with in terms of small changes. Second thing is we'll a lot of times use, and it depends on the person, how, their schedule, when they wake up, and then we either talk breakfast or first meal of the day, or the start of the day, like work, or something like that,
Yep.
So for a teacher, it might be that I get up at 5:30 and at 6:45 I leave for school. And so those are 2 easy anchor points. Lunch, oftentimes for most people, is pretty defined. It's at a given time, a given place. It has quite a bit of structure. And then the end of the day, I leave work at 5 o'clock. I leave work at 3:30. And then we have dinner, usually evening meal for people. And then we have bedtime. And so those are the first anchor points. And we try to find the ones that are most consistent for people, so
can I give you one?
Yeah.
Everyone's at home. Tell me what you think of this idea, Shelby. Everyone's at home, and there's certain rooms that you'll go in a few times a day.
Yep.
What if you when you crossed the threshold of the doorway into that room, you just dropped and did 10 push-ups?
Absolutely. And so
that wouldn't even take 2 minutes, would it?
Nope.
So is that good?
So
I mean, assuming you can get down and do push-ups.
Yep. So the only reason we don't and actually as a matter of fact, I used this the other day with somebody doing stairs to try to get them some extra cardio in, where every hour, on the hour, they either did one of 2 things, either can't even remember what it was. It was specific to the client, but it was either I'm going to do 5 flights of stairs every single hour just to slowly add up the total volume over the course of the day. Yep. So those things absolutely work. We consider those on top of, like, we start those after we kind of plug things into people's anchor points, just because it's so spread out and dispersed versus a single point. And so we have found people to have less bandwidth from a capacity to be able to spread it out. But absolutely it works. I mean, we try to do that with simple things like if you're sitting here on a call and I have water, I am going to drink. Yeah, I'm going to leave it here. So it reduces the friction. We always try to find ways to reduce the friction. Yeah. The thing is we try not to get people too spread out going too many different directions at once. So maybe it is for you, it might be that you need to drink water, or, we need to get you to do.
I hydrate with coffee, buddy.
Yeah.
You taught me coffee isn't necessarily a diuretic.
It is not. It is not. That's a fun fact. As a matter of fact, recent research showed it was as hydrating as drinking water.
I'll take that.
Yep.
Coach Brew and his 5 cups of coffee for the win.
Fun fact. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we got this 2-minute drill, so to speak. Yep. 2-minute cardio, 2-minute, whatever. Small gains, small wins. Talk to me a little bit about Rule 87. Let's say we got people who've kind of been able to move on from 2 minutes. Yep. Rule 87 is 10-minute workouts can change your life.
Yes.
And all that really is 5 2-minute workouts.
Yep, exactly. And so we start with the 2 and we actually build up. Yep. And so again, it's a habit, the first thing you alluded to, it is a habit-based thing. And it is, how can I do this? How can I not say no? So we start with 2 minutes. We get people off on the right foot. We have them start moving. And then the amazing thing, as a matter of fact, this just happened yesterday. This was not planned. I'd stopped by a client's house who was struggling with the, transition like everybody in terms of life, and saying, hey, kids are home, this has happened, whatever, my work schedule has changed, I'm really busy, and I'm having trouble getting my workouts in. So I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to, what we just talked about, anchor points, start of the day. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to start off. And because they've been working out, we decided on 4 minutes was going to be their starting point. Could easily have been 2. And ironically, I get a message like an hour later, having said that, I got through like 38 minutes of my workout. The only thing I didn't finish was this, and this. And I wasn't going to start, but literally you'd send me a text and said, just do, get this in and move on with life and call it a day. They did their 4 minutes. Ironically, it built off. So if you can start with 2 and we can get you to 10, what we found at 10 minutes is you can actually start making progress. So 10 minutes of intense workout in the right things, ironically, you do 10 minutes, 6-7 days a week, all of a sudden you have an hour of productive workout, and now you start to actually see results. So, is it perfect? No. Could you work out 3 or 4 hours a week? Absolutely. But the amazing thing with 10 minutes is now we're past just the habit point. Now we're into the productivity and efficiency standpoint, where it's what you do a little bit more that matters versus the other way around. And now we're able to kind of compound it and use that momentum from the 2 minutes to turn it into 10. And ironically, again, the 10 minutes, some days will turn into 30, 40 minutes, an hour of workout. And now you're actually talking like it's a results thing. Now I can drive results, no different than in business, right? Like if you have an 8-hour day, what are you doing with your 8 hours? Are you being productive for 8 hours, or are you being productive for 2 hours and 32 minutes?
See, you mentioned an important point at the beginning of your statement, and that's you were visiting this client and they initially weren't going to do it, but then they kind of heard you in their ear after you left. And I've had that same experience with you kind of being in my ear when I go to reach for something I know I shouldn't eat and I don't. Or like, I'm busy, I don't have time. Are you kidding me? drop and do 10 push-ups and do that, a couple times a day. Or like we got, a basement and all our bedrooms and everything's on the second floor. I could do 2 sets of stairs a few times a day. Like, so, and that speaks to the piece of both, small wins and lifestyle, but also accountability. And not having a trainer, or just not having someone you have to answer to, or who's kind of in your ear, makes it a lot easier for that stuff to slide. Can we talk a little bit about the accountability piece when it comes to, fitness, lifestyle, and then let's jump into Simplementation.
Yeah. I mean, you and I, look, we both know that, again, it's about doing, you get paid for done. It's no different in fitness than it is in business or anything else. You can have all the greatest ideas. Maybe you invented the iPhone, 25 years ago, but if you can't get the thing to production and done, it does no good. So the reality is, it's the ability to put the action in plan. And coaches are immense with this. You absolutely can use, spouses, friends, things like that. And it doesn't have to be super complicated. Again, I'm a simple person. It's got to be effective. But you need something that is going to hold you accountable. We've used a variety of things from ourselves with clients to softwares and apps and everything else, just to kind of put us in front of them. And we go back. One of my biggest questions I always try to kind of throw out there to myself to get to clients is, we need to find a way that they can't say no.
Yeah.
So if it's, oh, I forgot about it, or, oh, I got sidetracked, then we need to figure out, how can we not get them sidetracked? Do we send them reminders on text message and like, oh, wait, they're really bad with text message. Okay, can we email them? Okay, wait a minute, they don't like to check their email. Okay, can we call them? Can we, whatever it is, we need to figure out that barrier and have some way to keep tabs on them. Research is very clear that, if you have somebody to be held accountable to, that odds of you getting significantly higher results are, infinitely higher. And that's shown and proven over and over again. And so, again, it doesn't have to be a trainer. There are more components to it than that. If it's just the accountability piece, there are a lot of options. But the reality is, you need somebody to help hold you accountable, to help keep you vested in your goals. And again, I think making them simple is key, but have somebody help hold you accountable in terms of at least that action component. And then you're on your way.
Yeah, it needs to be clearly defined. You need an accountability partner. I think you also need a consequence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you don't feel the pain and not doing it, you're not going to do it.
People are much more likely to try to avoid pain than they are to kind of seek pleasure.
And I think most people underestimate the fact that the stick really is more powerful than the carrot.
Yes.
But so like, let's talk a little bit about, you said I'm a simple person. And a lot of people would think that's like a negative connotation. And I actually think, and I see this in my own life and I see it with my clients, that better results isn't necessarily, or usually isn't, a result of adding things. It's taking things away and simplifying and really kind of getting back to fundamentals. So when you say you're a simple person, to me, that's sexy. That's elegant. And that is something I am always striving to be more of, and to be more like you in that regard. I mean, I'll never be as good looking, but I can try and kind of pare down my life and make it as uncomplicated as possible. So can you talk about the power of simplicity and why that trumps, these complex solutions?
Yeah. Obviously there's a variety of ways to go with this. I think the easiest and most simple way to look at it is fewer decisions, fewer options, ultimately lead to fewer decisions. And they point you in a direction and they get you moving. If you only have one or two options for something. And we do this with nutrition, with fitness. Obviously, we take out the ability to even choose for people. Here is what you are doing. And so you try to take out those decision components so that the only thing they need to do is focus on the action, the actual completion of the task. All of a sudden you've created this powerful piece where it is showing up and saying, I don't need to open my refrigerator and figure out what I'm going to do, what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to have, when I'm going to do it. It's done for you already. And I think that's one of the advantages, again, of the coach is all of a sudden, your decision of what you're going to do, gone. Your decision of when you're going to do it, if you have an assigned time slot, gone. And now it's, I show up, Shelby tells me what to do, Coach Brew tells me what to do for this, you go out, you focus on completing it.
There's sort of a freeing kind of, like an emotionally freeing kind of quality to being on autopilot like that.
Absolutely. And I think that's the other thing I think you realize, and numbers are across, vary a little bit across the board, but you have X number of decisions you can make over the course of the day.
Yeah, let's talk about that. The whole concept of decision fatigue.
Yeah, it is. I think anybody, call it what you will. I know people that call it free will. And the reality is you only have so much bandwidth you can use to make decisions. And I always look at it like most people have to make a variety of decisions throughout the course of their day regardless, right? For work, for life, for kids and spouses and this and that. So if you can take out some of those decisions and put them in put the ball in the court for somebody else and have them be able to do it for you, now you can free yourself up to make other decisions. And it's no different than as a coach, as a business owner, you hire employees to do certain things and make some of the smaller decisions. And you've got to kind of free up your bandwidth in your space. So I think, to go back, I think workouts, having them written for you, huge. People trying to decide and figure it out on their own. I hate to say this, and I'm probably biased, but it never works out.
To me, that's like trying to do your taxes.
Exactly.
On your own. Like you're better off hiring an accountant. They're going to find things that you need to be able to claim that you would have missed.
Yep.
Absolutely. And they're probably not going to complicate it the way you will.
Absolutely. And so we do it with nutrition. Once we set up, kind of guidelines for people on how to do things, we try to take out their decision making, and then slowly we give it back, and say, once we've built the habits, kind of the parameters, we work off of that. But, I think decision fatigue is very real, especially toward the end of the day. Let's say it's 17, complex decisions you can make over the course of the day. You shouldn't have already used 4 of them up trying to pick out your clothes, trying to, decide what you're going to have for breakfast, those types of things, because you're going to sit there, you're going to wallow again by the time you hit the afternoon or the evening, and you're trying to figure out, what should I do for a workout? What about this? What should I have for dinner? Now you're in trouble.
Little things you can do, folks. And this is decision fatigue is a little thing that I think makes a big difference. And any places in your life you can eliminate decision fatigue, it's going to be a game changer for you in terms of your results, particularly at the end of the day when you're kind of decision exhausted, you're at your weakest. Like there's a reason why when people break their diet, it's like a pint of ice cream at 10 o'clock at night, not a pint of ice cream at 10 o'clock in the morning. Those decisions have worn away at your discipline and your willpower. So a couple of things that, I wish I would have learned this and known about it sooner. A couple of things I do. I try and eat the same thing as often as possible. Eat the same thing for breakfast, lunch, dinner. Nick Saban, probably the greatest football coach ever, certainly the greatest college football coach ever, eats the same thing every morning. He has a little Debbie snack cake on his way to work with a cup of coffee. Now, it's probably not the best thing, but if he's going to cheat on his diet, he's going to do it in the beginning of the day, not the end. He has already pre-ordered a chicken Caesar salad and water at lunch every day. He doesn't have to think about it. His lunch arrives, and that's what it is. Does he get sick of eating that? Probably, but it's one less decision he has to make. You look at CEOs, and football coaches are CEOs, but like Steve Jobs, what did he wear every single day, Shelby?
I don't know.
He wore a black mock turtleneck and blue jeans.
Yes.
Zuckerberg, CEO of Facebook, what's he wear every single day? A gray hoodie and blue jeans. Why? Is it because he's lazy and he doesn't want to wear a suit? No, it's just that's his uniform. It's one less decision he has to make. I guarantee you, if you walked in his bedroom closet, you would find probably 20 sets of blue jeans and 20 gray hooded sweatshirts. He's not wearing the same one every day, but like, you just go through that and you know what you're wearing. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to match your shirt to your pants, to your socks, to your tie,
Right.
to your jacket, to whatever. It's just, it's autopilot, and there's so many areas of our life that we can do that.
Yep.
What are areas, we talked about workout, nutrition. I just talked about like what you eat and just kind of benchmarking that. So it's one less decision. What are some other areas? What did I miss?
So one of my favorite things, which again crosses over a little bit, and I think this varies for people, but usage of time in cars. I think a lot of people, are listening to podcasts, which is great. Big fan of podcasts. I do it myself some, but I schedule a lot of phone calls to be made in cars, headed to work. A couple of times, depending on the day of the week, when I'm driving in the middle of the day, I'll schedule phone calls for then. End of the day on certain days, so I know I have these windows of time that I'm going to plug those in. And two things. One, you talked about like every time I cross a door, I'm going to do my 10 push-ups. Well, when I get in my car on Monday evenings, I know I'm set to make a bunch of my phone calls to some of our remote clients. So I line them up and I tee them up, and I know where they are, and I know the spots I can plug them in. And I think that's in part being proactive as far as looking at your schedule, but it's usage of those times. It's, for your football analogy, it's like a 2-minute drill. My 2-minute rule is, okay, I have a 10-minute gap between, 9:50 and 10 o'clock, and I have a 10 o'clock meeting. What do I do with my 10 minutes? Do I get on Facebook and do I scroll, or do I have a list of tasks that I can do that I can knock out, that again, move me along kind of that ladder. And so we have a whole bunch of those things in place that
keyword list,
try
not
to get
making it up during that 10 minutes, right?
Correct. Exactly.
Shelby,
you have a list,
the keyword being list, right?
Yep. I'm an organizational person. I am proactive on that side.
He doesn't even go to the bathroom without a plan. That's how organized Shelby is.
Absolutely.
But in all seriousness, like having that list, you mentioned the 2-minute drill in football, like they don't just decide spur of the moment what they're going to do for their 2-minute drill. They've got that scripted.
Correct.
They have the opening series at the beginning of the game scripted, and they have it for a reason. They're prepared. They're organized. It's more efficient. How prepared, organized, and efficient is your day, is your commute, is your downtime between appointments. I think that's a big takeaway for you today on the podcast. If you don't get anything else, get that. You are finding time and you're creating a habit, creating a discipline.
Yeah, I think, to piggyback that, I would say, if you look at, brought up the Simplementation piece, and I always say it's the art and the science of creating powerful change. Like, how do we do it, right? Science says this. Maybe it's this is the best for fat loss, or this is, whatever, this is the best diet for fat loss, whatever it is. But the problem is how do we take the science and then actually do it ourselves, which goes back to, in part planning and having it mapped out about what you're doing, that reduces decision fatigue, that increases your productivity. All these things are all literally wrapped together. And I think the other thing to go off of what you just said was, at least made me think that the reality is you have to let go of certain things. If you're running a 2-minute drill, you can't run every single play in the playbook, even though you may think some plays are great. If you're going to start to improve your health, the reality is you're probably not going to scroll Facebook as much as you did. And that's okay. And it's building that
You're probably not going to miss anything either.
Exactly. So you're changing it. So instead of getting on your phone and sitting down on the couch, you pick up a book and you read standing, and you read one of those a day. You read one rule a day. You don't worry about, reading for 30 minutes or reading a chapter or whatever. Literally read a rule. Some days you'll read one rule. Some days you may read 36. But you get at least your one rule in, and you kind of build off of that, and then all of a sudden, now you've got the ability to, okay, what should I read? What should I do? Should I do something after it? How do I remember it? How do I implement what I just read? Now we're talking the things that most people worry about, which is, they end up putting the cart before the horse. But the reality is you got to let some things go, and you really have to, we always tell people when they're trying to make change, we say we have you add before you subtract. Meaning not so much that you're adding things in terms of complicating it, but what you're trying to do is figure out what you need, and then you take away what you don't. We kind of trim the fat around the edges. And so ultimately you end up with less.
Give me a little example of that.
But it's like, what do I have to start doing? So, to go back to the fat loss piece, let's say you need to work out. We want to try to find a way to get you to do 2 minutes. And so before we try to figure out saying, oh, let's just work out for 2 minutes, the reality is you got to take something away. So what is it we're trying to pull out to make it easier? And it could be anything from, again, first thing I do when I come home is I sit down on the couch. Well, I know that if I sit down on the couch, I'm not getting up. I'm going to get on my phone. I'm going to turn the TV on. I'm going to talk to my kids. I'm going to do whatever. So we don't ever let you get to the couch. So you walk in the door, you set down your stuff, and you start doing body weight squats right there for 2 minutes. Then once you're done your 2 minutes of squats, then you can go sit on the couch if you want. And then we build off of that. Again, the 2 minutes eventually hopefully turns into 10 minutes. And then we worry about having you do body weight squats and push-ups and planks. And then off of that, we say, okay, now you got 10 minutes and you're doing it routinely. Now what should you do with your 10 minutes? Should you get a gym membership? Should you get a Peloton? Like, what should you do? Then the decisions start to matter with what you're doing. But until that point, I think people are typically kind of, I don't want to say wasting their time, but they're spinning their wheels in terms of going in circles, really.
So Shelby.
Yes.
Was that just you fat shaming me?
No.
Is that just a subtle fat shaming?
I would
Okay.
never fat shame you, John.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's what initially felt like. I thought it felt like a subtle hint for John.
Never.
Okay. So for everyone who's listening to this, and I think as a species, we do love to complicate things in our lives. What is the number one mistake you see people make? And it might be fitness, it might be nutrition, it might just be in their everyday life or business. When it comes to complicating, that you would like to teach my audience how to simplement that thing. So what is that thing, Shelby?
So my one statement would be, I think you need to focus on action, not outcome. If there were one thing that I think drives all productivity, I think it is the action, or like the task that you were doing, and not chasing the result that you desire. If you want to be a millionaire, you trying to make $1 million, right? And doing your math on how many people I need and whatever, fantastic. You need to know that. But you need to start selling things. You need to have a business. You need to have a product to sell or a service to sell to get there. And then how do you do that? And so from that standpoint, then we say, and again, whatever, it could be anything. So we're talking fat loss. So I need to work out. I need to eat better. And then I need to decide what I need to do. I need to sleep better. I need to reduce my stress. So I'm trying to download these apps. The first thing is out of weight loss, what's one thing I can start to do? Well, if it's nutrition, okay, I need to eat better. So I need to, what does eat better mean? Well, it means controlling food intake. So if controlling food intake matters, what can I do to try to help control food intake? And we keep panning it down all the way until there literally is one thing so easy that you can't say no. Like, I can't do that. I can't have another piece of broccoli. I can't do this. And it might be as simple as saying, I'm going to have one vegetable at a meal. One meal a day, one vegetable. That could be a single baby carrot. That could be not even a serving, not a vegetable at every meal. We can build there again. We can build the habit of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's having, we do a lot of things with water with people to get them in the habit of drinking it. It fills up space. It's good for energy. Most people don't drink it enough. All these different reasons. So we, a lot of times, will give people water bottles, have them fill it up and bring it with them
Yep.
everywhere they go. And so that might be their one component to start their weight loss. We don't even talk about calories in, calories out, how much exercise are you doing, paleo, keto, like vegan, what do I follow for a diet? We say, drink water. And they say, how much? And we say, I don't care, drink water. 1 ounce is better than 0.
Yeah.
And then off of that, now we say, okay, John, you've drank water for 32 days straight. How much water are you drinking? Let's quantify it. Okay, you're only drinking 17 ounces. Let's get you to 64. And then to 64. And then from the 64, we say, all right, are you drinking water with every meal? All right, how many meals are you eating? And again, we keep slowly building off of that. But I think just getting to the lowest common denominator from each little standpoint, understanding that if you did that, even, we tell people, forget even on a daily basis making change. If you did it on a monthly basis and 12 times a year, you added 12 positive actions or habits, all of a sudden you're in good shape. And most importantly, long-term success, you are set up for it. And it's no different than being rich, right? Success ends up being an equation. And so, you don't get rich in a year unless you win the lottery, and that's not happening for most people. So the reality is you got to string together a lot of those little victories, and you end up in a good spot. And they start small, and then they're so easy you can't say no, and slowly they become progressively bigger. And then you're on your way. Then you got the momentum.
So as you're listening to this, just reflect on that and think about what's the smallest thing you can start and continue with it. The smallest thing. What Shelby's really talked about is having a process-oriented mindset. Don't focus on the outcome, focus on the process. It's like chopping a tree down. Do you chop a tree down with one swing of the axe? No, never. Probably not even the smallest tree. You're not going to accomplish that. But if you keep chopping and chopping and chopping, eventually little becomes big and you get a result. But it's just that simple action of doing one thing and repeating that and making it a habit. Absolutely. Shelby, where's the best place people can get more information on you, grab a copy of the code, and start to live the Simplementation life?
Yeah, so you can go to shelbytrain.com is the website. The book is on there. The book is also on Amazon, The Shelby Trained Code. In addition, you can go to simplementationbook.com if you want to check that out. We'll hopefully be releasing that late 2020, somewhere around the end of the year. Maybe it'll be the beginning of 2021, but somewhere around the end of the year, that'll be released, and we're hoping to kind of run with it and spend more time enlightening people, on how they can implement that and some of those strategies for fitness, business, health, a little bit of everything in terms of, again, trying to have more impact on people and ultimately change their lives. So
it's really, it's not like a flavor of the month gimmick, like you see, like Who Moved My Cheese or, Blue Ocean Strategy, that kind of stuff. It's a lifestyle. And Simplementation is a lifestyle that's all encompassing: fitness, nutrition, sleep, business, just personal development. And I think once you start to get into that habit, that lifestyle, it becomes ingrained in you and you don't want to stop, So I would encourage everybody to go to shelbytrain.com, pick up a copy of the code. The price is right, baby. Pick it up. Sign up for his email list too, because it reinforces a lot of the habits that we just talked about. You're going to get little snippets of different habits and different things that you can apply not just to your health, but the health of your business, the health of your family. Simply a little bite-sized daily dose of it. So check that out at shelbytrain.com. Shelby, thank you for sharing with us today. And, you're absolutely my favorite guest I've ever had on the show. I say that about all my guests, but this time I meant it. And I love to end the show with asking each of my guests, what's the one question that I forgot to ask you and I should have? Like, Brew, wow, you really whiffed on this. How did you not ask me such and such? What's that thing? I shamelessly promoted both the book that you have.
Right.
And the one that's coming up, your website, your list. What didn't I do? How have I failed you today?
How have you failed? You have not failed me. You have not failed me at all. Honestly, I would think I would hate to say I'm gonna give it back in the sense of to the listeners, viewers, and I would say if you said what is the one thing somebody could do when they leave the call right now to move their life forward, I would say you need to take a piece of paper and a pen, sit down, tell Alexa to set a timer for 10 minutes, and write down your goal, and then slowly pan it down to literally one action, find an anchor point, and start on your way. And literally you're off to the races. And I think anything is the right answer in terms of that small action to get you moving, and then you can start to slowly refine it and spending the time on that, the planning piece. You talked about the planning and having a list and everything else. Essential. It is a game changer. It was a game changer for my business and my clients in terms of doing it, and again, not overcomplicating things. So I would say, leave the call. Don't say you're going to do it later. Literally, when you shut this off, get it out right then. If you need to, spend 2 minutes.
Whip it out now, people.
Exactly, and get it done. It's not going to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's the action piece. You can build off of that. So no excuses. Do it right now as soon as you're done, and then move on with your day. And you can always go back and fine tune it later and spend more time on it.
Awesome. And folks, again, it's shelbytrained.com. Head over there, grab a copy of the book, get on board with the Simplementation lifestyle. Shelby, thanks for joining the call today and being a guest on the podcast.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it as always.